The lock on the $10 million mansion door clicked shut with the finality of a gavel. Damien Vassar stood on the marble steps, adjusting his $5,000 Italian suit, as his wife Emily stood shivering on the gravel driveway, holding nothing but her car keys. "The house is mine, Emily. The company is mine. You're left with what you came with, nothing." He spat the words, turning to wrap his arm around a younger woman in the doorway. He was right. He did own the house. He owned every custom-built wall, every imported chandelier. But he had forgotten to check one crucial detail. He owned the house, but he had never, ever owned the land. The rain began as a cold, stinging mist, an afterthought to the humiliation. Emily Hayes Vassar hadn't even processed the sound of the deadbolt. She was still reeling from the words, "Sienna is moving in. You are moving out." It had happened with the speed of a car crash. She had been at a charity luncheon for the City Restoration Fund, a passion project she'd poured thousands of hours into. She'd come home, her heels clicking on the imported Italian marble of the grand foyer, calling Damien's name. She was excited to tell him they had secured the grant for the downtown library. He wasn't in his study. He wasn't in the gym. He was in the master bedroom, their bedroom, and he was not alone. Sienna Stone, a woman Emily recognized from countless vapid social media posts, was preening in front of Emily's antique vanity mirror, applying Emily's Chanel lipstick. "Oh, good," Sienna had said, her voice a sickly sweet syrup. "She's here. Now we can get this over with." Damien, emerging from the master bath wearing only a towel, had the audacity to look annoyed. Not ashamed, not guilty. Annoyed, as if Emily had interrupted an important business meeting. "Emily, perfect timing," he'd said, his voice the one he used for hostile takeovers. "Sienna and I were just finalizing things. It's over. We're done." "Done?" Emily's voice was a whisper. The grant, the library, the last 10 years of her life evaporated. "Damien, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about this." He gestured between himself and Sienna, who was now wrapping herself in Emily's silk robe. "This is real. What we had," he scoffed, "was a business arrangement. And frankly, you've become a bad investment." The argument had been a blur of his cruelty. He called her stale, uninspired, and a glorified decoration. He accused her of holding him back, of being a passionless weight on his ambition. Every word was a calculated strike designed to shatter the quiet, steady woman he had married. Emily had been silent, a trait Damien had always mistaken for weakness. Her silence was not weakness. It was shock, turning rapidly into a cold, crystallizing rage. "Get your things," he'd snapped, tossing a small, empty duffel bag at her feet. "Just the essentials. My lawyers will send a check for whatever the prenup dictates, which, if I recall, is basically nothing." Ah, the prenup. Damien had been so proud of it. Drafted by his cutthroat team at Vassar Capital, it was designed to protect his assets. He, the self-made tech mogul, couldn't risk his fortune on a charity case wife, as he'd once joked to his friends. Emily hadn't fought him on it. Her own family lawyers had glanced at it, smiled faintly, and advised her to sign. "It's perfectly fine, dear," her father had said, now that nothing was becoming very real. "I'm not leaving," Emily had stated, her voice trembling, but firm. "Oh, you are." Damien laughed. He grabbed her by the arm, his grip bruising. He was stronger than he looked, fueled by arrogance and new lust. He dragged her down the winding staircase, past the priceless art she had curated, past the library she had stocked. Sienna followed, filming parts of it on her phone, a triumphant smirk on her face. "Damien, stop! This is my home." "No, this is my home," he roared, shoving her toward the door. "I built this. I paid for this. Every brick, every window is mine. You are just a guest who overstayed her welcome." He'd thrown open the massive carved oak doors. The mist was now a driving, icy rain. "Your car is in the driveway. The Bentley is mine. The Range Rover is mine. You can keep the pathetic little hybrid you insisted on driving." He'd reached into her coat pocket, fished out her wallet, removed his black credit card, and tossed the wallet onto the gravel beside her. "Now get out!" Sienna, standing in the doorway, shivered dramatically. "Hurry up, baby. You're letting the cold in. Let's go open that bottle of 2005 Dom Perignon. We have something to celebrate." Damien had looked back at Emily, a final, chilling assessment. "You know, I thought you were smart, but you were just quiet. Turns out you were just empty." He threw her small duffel bag containing only her laptop and a change of clothes he'd deemed frumpy enough to be hers onto the wet gravel. And then the click of the deadbolt. Emily stood there for a full minute, the rain soaking her silk blouse, plastering her hair to her face. The gravel cut into her knees as she knelt to retrieve her bag. She looked up at the magnificent structure. The Vassar estate, the press called it. A sprawling monument of glass and steel perched on the most exclusive crest in Hawk's Ridge. Damien was right. He did own the house. He had the receipts to prove it. She got into her pathetic hybrid. Her hands were shaking so hard she dropped the keys twice. She didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, she took a deep, shuddering breath and pulled out her phone. She didn't call her mother. She didn't call her friends. She scrolled to a number saved under M. Thorne. "Marcus," she said, her voice raspy. "It's Emily. He's done it." There was a pause on the other end, then a deep, calm voice. "The morals clause, then. Is the cohabitation confirmed?" "She's in my bathrobe, Marcus," Emily said, the cold finally seeping into her voice. "She's drinking my champagne in his house." "A fatal mistake," Marcus Thorne replied, a hint of grim satisfaction in his tone. "Not his house, Mrs. Vassar. And that is the problem. Where are you?" "I'm on the curb." "Good. Go to the penthouse at the Hayes Tower. Use your maiden name. Order room service. Get some sleep. I will initiate the protocol at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Damien Vassar has just made the most expensive mistake of his life." "He thinks he owns it, Marcus." "We know, my dear," the lawyer said. "He owns the circus, but he forgot to ask who owns the land." Damien Vassar woke to the smell of expensive coffee and the blinding sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his master bedroom. Sienna was draped across his chest, her phone already in her hand, scrolling through Instagram comments. "Babe," she mumbled, "what should I caption this morning view from my new castle?" Damien smiled, feeling a surge of pure, unadulterated power. This was his. He had earned it. He had shed his dead weight. Emily was probably crying in a 200-a-night Marriott, wondering how it all went wrong. "Caption it, the King's View," he said, kissing Sienna's bare shoulder. "And make sure you tag the location." He got up, stretched, and walked to the window overlooking the 20-acre estate. The grounds were immaculate. The infinity pool seemed to spill over into the city skyline below. His. All his. He padded downstairs to his state-of-the-art office to start his day. He had a few things to clean up. First, severing the financial ties. He logged into his private banking portal. He had several joint accounts with Emily, mostly for household expenses. He'd liquidate them, move the funds to his personal account. He clicked on the Vassar-Hayes joint account. Balance. Trawls, he frowned. That was odd. There was at least 150,000 in that account. He checked the transfer history. A single-wire transfer executed at 8:55 a.m., 5 minutes ago. All funds moved to a Hayes Family Trust account. That conniving, he growled. She'd woken up early to be petty. Fine. It was a drop in the ocean. He tried the next account, the brokerage account. It held some play stocks. She liked green energy, sustainable textiles. Account frozen. He tried to log into the household management system to change the gate codes. Access denied. Administrator credentials invalid. A cold prickle of annoyance ran down his spine. This was more than petty. This was organized. He scoffed. She probably had some small-time divorce lawyer trying to make a statement. He'd crush them. He called his own lawyer, Stanley Croft. Stanley, she's out. Start the divorce. I want it fast. I want it clean. And I want her buried under the prenup. Right, Damien, Stanley said, sounding eager. I'll file the standard papers, but there's a small problem. What problem? I just got a notification. A hold has been placed on the Hawks Ridge property by a third party. Not a lien, exactly. A leasehold compliance review. Damien was silent. A what? What third party? Thorne Finch and Associates, Stanley said. Damien's blood ran cold. Thorne Finch and Associates wasn't some small-time divorce firm. They were the oldest, most powerful real estate and trust law firm in the state. They represented old money. The kind of money that didn't bother with Forbes lists because they owned the paper mills Forbes was printed on. Why are they involved? Damien demanded. That's what I'm trying to figure out. They're not representing Emily Vassar. They're representing the Hawks Ridge Land Holding Corporation. Damien laughed, a harsh barking sound. That's just the HOA, Stanley. They manage the landscaping. Send them a check. I don't think it's the HOA, Damien. The filing is aggressive. It's citing a default. Meanwhile, Emily was not in a Marriott. She was 40 floors above the city in the private unlisted penthouse of the Hayes Tower, a building her great-grandfather had built. The space was the opposite of the cold glass and steel mansion. It was warm, filled with books, rich mahogany, and worn, priceless Persian rugs. She was showered, dressed in a simple cashmere sweater and slacks, and sipping tea with Marcus Thorne. Marcus was a man in his late 60s, impeccably dressed with the calm demeanor of a man who had never lost an argument. He's discovering the accounts now, Marcus said, looking at his pocket watch. The joint accounts were easy. The household systems were tied to a management company owned by the trust, so we simply revoked his user privileges. He is, as of 9:01 a.m., a guest in his own home. He won't understand, Emily said, looking out the window. He's so focused on the house. Let's review just so you are prepared, Marcus said, pulling a file. Your great-grandfather, Robert Hayes, purchased 5,000 acres of what was then worthless hillside in 1922. The Hayes Land Trust has never sold a single acre. We lease it. The 99-year ground leases. Emily recited a lesson she'd learned since childhood. Precisely. Developers, moguls like Mr. Vassar come in. They build their dream homes. They pay millions for the privilege of building on our land. They own the structure, the improvements, as we call them. but they are, for all intents and purposes, tenants. Marcus tapped the file. Damien Vassar signed a 99-year lease for Lot 117 Hawks Ridge. The annual fee is nominal, a few $1,000s. He thought it was a steal. He never reads the fine print, Emily murmured. He leaves that to his people, and his people clearly missed Clause 34. Marcus said, smiling. The Hayes Morals Clause. It's so archaic, Emily said. Archaic but ironclad. It was your great-grandmother's idea. We will not have scandal on Hayes land. The clause states that the leaseholder must not engage in behavior that could bring disrepute, scandal, or public notoriety to the property. This includes, but is not limited to, publicly documented infidelity, criminal activity, or cohabitation with a non-spouse in a manner of adultery. Sienna Stone, Emily said, is currently, I believe, posting selfies from the master bedroom tagged at Vassar Estate. Marcus's assistant, a sharp young woman named Price, chimed in, holding up a tablet. The post has 15,000 likes. She has captioned it, The King's View. Publicly documented. Perfect, Marcus said. As of 9:00 a.m., we served Mr. Vassar with a notice of default on his lease. He has 30 days to cure the default. Cure it? Emily asked. In this case, that would mean ceasing the adulterous cohabitation, removing Miss Stone and presumably reconciling with his legally wedded wife. You. Emily laughed, a dry, humorless sound. And if he fails to cure the default, Marcus said, his eyes glinting, the Hayes Land Trust has the right to terminate the lease, immediately. And the house. Oh, this is the beautiful part. Clause 34b. Upon termination of the lease, due to default, all improvements on the land, the house, the pool, the art installations, are forfeited. They become the property of the landowner. Us. Emily finally took a sip of her tea. It was hot and it was strong. He's going to fight. He will call it a shakedown. Let him, Marcus said. He's a tech bully. We are a 100-year-old institution. He is bringing a lawsuit to a war. Now on to Phase 2, the Vassar Capital Fund. What about it? Emily asked. You are a silent partner, are you not? Your initial $20 million seed money. He told me it was just a formality for tax purposes, Emily said. He's always said it's his fund. He is the face, yes. But your $20 million, which is now worth over $200 million, is held in a sub-trust. A sub-trust that once again contains a morals clause tied to your marriage. He has just breached his fiduciary duty to you, his primary partner. Emily stared. I thought that money was just gone. Invested. Oh no, Emily, Marcus said, standing up. Your father was a very smart man. He didn't trust Damien any further than he could throw him. You are not just a silent partner. You are the controlling partner. Damien Vassar is about to find out that he doesn't just work in his company. He works for his wife. Damien Vassar was in a state of controlled fury. He was pacing his glass-walled office, barking at his lawyer. What do you mean you can't get a judge to vacate? It's a compliance review. It's harassment. It's Emily. She's bitter. Damien, I'm telling you. Stanley Croft's voice was tinny over the speakerphone. This isn't Emily's signature. It's Marcus Thorne's. This isn't a divorce tactic. This is a real estate dispute. And frankly, they're not wrong about the lease. I've got a copy of it. And, Damien, did you read this Clause 34A, the Morals Clause? That's just boilerplate. It's archaic. It's unenforceable. Damien yelled, slamming his fist on his desk. The desk, a single slab of polished obsidian, didn't shudder. It's not Damien, Stanley said, his voice dropping. Not when the Hayes family is involved. Their entire reputation is built on enforceable contracts. You are publicly cohabitating with Miss Stone, are you not? It's my house. It's their land, Stanley shot back, and they are claiming you are in default. You have 30 days to cure it, which means Sienna has to go. Sienna, who had been lounging on the sofa in his office, sat up. What go where? She's not going anywhere, Damien snapped. This is my house. You tell Marcus Thorne. I'll see him in court. I'll sue him, Emily, and this Hayes Trust for everything they've got. Damien, Stanley said, sighing. You can't. Your prenup with Emily is airtight. It protects your assets from her. But it also has a mutual no-contest clause. You can't sue her for, well, anything. And you definitely don't want to sue the Hayes Trust. Why not? I'm worth billions. They're worth cities, Damien. They don't measure their wealth in dollars, they measure it in square miles. Just hear them out. It's a shakedown. They probably want money. A fine. Pay it. Get them off your back. And maybe be discreet with Sienna for a few weeks. Discreet. Sienna stood up, outraged. He just kicked his wife out for me. I am not discreet. Damien hung up on Stanley. He's an idiot, he muttered. He's weak. I'll get new lawyers. I'll get the best. He looked at Sienna. Baby, he's just stressed. It's nothing. Just some legal nonsense Emily cooked up. I'll handle it. You'd better, Sienna said, pouting. I'm not going to be discreet. I'm supposed to host a brand launch party here next week. For my new Stone's Glow tanner. Damien's phone buzzed. It was his COO, Mark. Damien, thank God. What the hell is going on? Mark sounded frantic. What are you talking about? The fund Vassar Capital, I'm locked out. All the high-level admin controls, they're frozen. I can't execute the trades for the Apex merger. What, that's impossible. I'm the only one with full admin keys. Well, you're not, Mark said. A controlling partner directive just came through. It's Emily. Not Emily Vassar. Emily Hayes. And she's frozen all capital movement. Damien's vision swam. He stumbled to his chair. That can't be right. She's not a partner. She gave me seed money. It was a gift. The documents I'm seeing, Mark said, his voice tight with panic, say it was a $20 million buy-in as a controlling interest partner contingent on a fiduciary morals clause tied to her personal well-being and marital status. Damien, what did you do? Damien was breathing hard. She wouldn't know how. She doesn't know anything about the business. Then her lawyers do, Mark yelled. The market opens in 20 minutes, and our entire portfolio is frozen pending a partner review. The investors, Damien, the investors are calling. They've seen the freeze. They're panicking. You need to fix this. Call her, beg her. Do whatever you have to do. The line went dead. Damien sat in his $1 million office in his $100 million house and felt the first icy cold tendril of real fear. He had built an empire of glass and code, a new money monolith, but he had built it on a foundation of old money stone, and he had just taken a sledgehammer to the foundation. Damien, Sienna's voice was sharp. What's wrong? You look pale. Is it the lawyer? Did he upset you? The fund, Damien whispered. She's frozen the fund. Sienna's perfectly manicured face went from pouting to confusion, and then to a cold, calculating hardness that matched his own. What do you mean, frozen? She's a partner. A controlling partner. Sienna stood up. The silk robe, Emily's robe, suddenly looked cheap on her. A partner. You told me she was nothing. You told me she was a charity case you married. I thought she was, he yelled, lashing out. How was I supposed to know? She signs checks for libraries. She volunteers. She's Emily. Well, Emily is apparently the one who signs your checks. Sienna spat. You told me you were the king. You're not the king. You're just a jester. Get out. Damien said, his voice low. What? Not you, just get out of my office. I need to think. I need to call. I need to fix this. Sienna, for the first time, looked uncertain. The financial security she had just gleefully grabbed was flickering. You are going to fix this, Damien. Right. You're going to call her and tell her to stop. Yes. Damien said, his mind racing. I'll call her. I'll reason with her. She's emotional. She's just hurt. I'll offer her a better settlement. A real one. 10 million. 20 million. She'll sign. She'll have to. He pulled up Emily's contact. He dialed. It went straight to voicemail. Not her personal voicemail. You have reached the private line of Emily Hayes. I am not available. For all matters regarding the Hayes Land Trust, please contact Marcus Thorne. For all matters regarding Vassar Capital, please contact the office of the controlling partner. All other inquiries will not be returned. He threw his phone across the room. It shattered against a wall-sized, abstract painting. Fine, he seethed to the empty room. You want to play hardball, Emily? You've forgotten who I am. I don't get bullied. I do the bullying. He buzzed his security team. Find my wife. Find out where she is. I don't care how. I want to know where she's sleeping, what she's eating, and who she's talking to, now. While Damien was dismantling his office, Emily was in a different kind of war room. The main conference room at Thorne Finch and Associates was not the sterile glass box environment Damien favored. It was paneled in dark wood, the table a 20-foot-long single piece of mahogany. The walls were lined with leather-bound books that were not for show. They were used. Emily sat at the head of the table. Marcus Thorne was to her right. To her left was a team of specialists. As of 10:00 a.m., a forensic accountant named Peterson was saying, "We have a full freeze on all Vassar Capital assets pending our audit. As the controlling partner, you are well within your rights, Mrs. Vassar. The fiduciary morals clause is explicit. The fund's stability is predicated on the stable marital union of its partners as your father stipulated. The public ejection of one partner by the other constitutes, well, it's a catastrophic breach." "He'll say it's my money," Emily said. "He'll claim I'm just an investor." "He will say that," Marcus cut in. "But the law will say otherwise. Your father was brilliant. The money was never yours to gift to him. It was the trust's. The trust invested in him with you as its proxy. Damien was in legal terms the managing director of your investment, and he just tried to fire his boss. He's going to be violent," Emily said, her voice small for a moment. "His security team is already making inquiries," Ms. Price, the assistant, said, not looking up from her laptop. "They've called 3 fixers to try and locate you. All 3 fixers are on the Hayes Trust retainer. They all reported no leads." Emily blinked. "You have fixers on retainer." Marcus smiled. My dear, the Hayes family doesn't just own land. We own relationships. You are in the safest place you could possibly be. He cannot reach you." "Good," Emily said, the steel returning to her voice. "What's next?" "The house." "The 30-day notice is delivered," Marcus said. "He has two options. One, he cures the default. This means Miss Sienna Stone must vacate the premises permanently, and he must cease all scandalous behavior." "He won't do that," Emily said. "His pride won't allow it. He'd rather burn the house down." "Which brings us to option 2, Marcus continued. "He ignores the notice. He files lawsuits. He tries to fight us. In 30 days, on the 10th of next month, his right to cure expires. At 12:01 a.m. on the 11th, the Hayes Trust takes possession of Lot 117 and all improvements thereon. We will have the Sheriff's Department on standby to escort Mr. Vassar and his guest from our property." "He'll never see it coming," Emily murmured. "He's so arrogant. He thinks morals clause is a joke." "The most effective legal tools are the ones people laugh at," Marcus said, "until they're invoked. Now, Emily, the board of the trust needs to know your intention. What is your plan?" "We can, of course, liquidate his position in the fund. It would be messy. But you would be worth in liquid cash several $billion. Emily looked around the table. At the serious, powerful people all waiting for her, the quiet wife, to speak. "I remember," she said slowly, "when Damien first proposed. He took me to Hawk's Ridge. It was just an empty patch of dirt then. He stood there and he said, 'I'm going to build a monument to myself here. Something so big and bright, no one can ever ignore me again.' He was so driven. I thought it was passion. I didn't realize it was just hunger. A void that can't be filled." She paused, then looked Marcus dead in the eye. "He threw me out. He told me I was nothing. He said I was empty. He built his empire on my family's foundation and called it his own. He didn't just break a marriage vow. He committed theft. Of my time, my name, my security." "So the goal is not reconciliation," Marcus stated. "The goal," Emily said, standing up. Her voice, ringing with an authority that surprised even herself, "is consequences. He built a monument to himself. I want it gone." "Emily. Not the land, Marcus. The house. The Vassar estate. He thinks it's his legacy. I want it erased." "Can we do that?" Marcus Thorne looked at his partners. A slow, wolfish grin spread across his face. "Yes, Mrs. Vassar. I believe we can. We can terminate the lease. We can seize the improvement. And then we can file for a demolition permit." "Demolition?" Peterson the accountant gasped. "That house is worth north of $100 million. It's a structure," Emily said, her voice cold as the marble in her old foyer. "It's an improvement on Hayes land, and I find it in bad taste. It brings disrepute. It's an eyesore." "A demolition permit," Marcus mused. "The Hawk's Ridge Architectural Review Board would have to approve it. Which they will. The Hayes Trust is the review board." He steepled his fingers. "So the plan is set. Phase 1. We wait for him to self-destruct for 30 days. Phase 2. We reclaim the land. Phase 3. We reclaim the fund. Phase 4. Erasure." "What about Sienna Stone?" Emily asked. "Miss Stone," Miss Price said, "is a symptom, not the disease. She's a social media influencer, and you know what happens to influencers who are tied to public messy and losing scandals. They lose their brands. We've already had quiet off-the-record conversations with her top 2 sponsors. They are reviewing her contracts. Emily nodded. He took 10 years of my life. He thinks he can erase me with a new younger woman. He's about to find out what erasure really means. One last thing, Emily, Marcus said, his tone gentle. This will be a public fight. He will get loud. The press will get involved. Forbes, the Wall Street Journal. They love a good mogul versus mogul story. Are you prepared for that? Emily thought of him standing on the step of Sienna's smirk, of the cold rain and the sound of the deadbolt. He called me empty, she said. Let him. I'd rather be underestimated. Let him roar. The quiet ones are the ones you have to watch. The first week was a storm of legal bluster. Damien, having fired Stanley Croft, hired Barrington and Lynch, a notoriously aggressive litigation firm known for scorched earth tactics. They filed a dozen motions. Motion to dismiss the lease default, denied. Motion to force mediation, denied. Motion for an injunction against the Hayes Trust, denied. Motion to unfreeze Vasa Capital assets, denied. With every denial, Damien's rage grew. He was hemorrhaging money. His new lawyers demanded a $5 million retainer, which he had to pay from his dwindling personal accounts. Sienna was becoming a problem. What do you mean my Stone's Glow sponsor pulled out? She shrieked, throwing a $1,000 vase across the living room. They said my brand alignment was compromised. It's just a legal tactic, baby, Damien kept saying, the words sounding hollow even to him. Emily's just trying to scare us. Well, it's working, Sienna cried. My comments are a war zone. They're calling me a home wrecker. Forbes just ran an article, Vassar's vexing lease. They're not calling you a king, Damien. They're calling you a squatter. He'd seen the article. It had been devastating. It didn't paint him as a titan of industry. It painted him as a fool. New money mogul Damien Vassar, who built his dream home on a 99-year ground lease, seems to have forgotten the cardinal rule of real estate, always read the fine print. Now a dispute with the powerful old money Hayes family threatens his entire empire. His investors, once cowed by his bravado, were now in open revolt. With the fund frozen, their money was trapped. The Apex merger had collapsed, costing the fund a potential $3 billion in future earnings. A class action lawsuit was being prepared. Damien was a prisoner in his own glass palace. He couldn't leave because his lawyers advised him that abandoning the property could be used against him. He was trapped inside with a rapidly deteriorating Sienna, who was no longer the fun, adoring woman he'd cheated with. She was a liability, documenting their struggle on social media. Day 12 of the lockout, she'd pout to her phone from the edge of the infinity pool. That psycho ex-wife has frozen all of Dee's money. But we're still strong. Couple goals, haters gonna hate. Marcus Thorne's office had gleefully entered that video as Exhibit F in the failure to cure default file. On day 20, Damien broke. He did the one thing he swore he would never do. He drove to the Hayes Tower. He was not allowed in. I'm sorry, sir, the security guard, a man built like a mountain, said, This is a private building. You are not on the list. I am Damien Vassar. I am here to see my wife. Mrs. Vassar is not in residence, the guard said, unblinking. I know she's in there. Emily. Emily, he bellowed, a madman in a $10,000 suit screaming in the lobby. You can't do this. This is my money. This is my life. You want a settlement. Name your price. $50 million. 2 more guards emerged. They gently but immovably escorted a struggling Damien Vassar out onto the sidewalk, just as a TMZ camera flashed. The next day, the headline was, "Vassar's Meltdown Mogul Evicted from Tower." In the penthouse, Emily watched the footage, her face impassive. Marcus Thorne switched off the television. "He's unraveling," Marcus said. "It's time to prepare for Phase 2. He has 10 days left. He will not cure the default. He is in fact doubling down on the scandalous behavior." "He looks," Emily said, "desperate." "He is. He has no leverage. He is trying to build a new house on top of a sinkhole," Marcus said. "Now the press, they've been calling. The Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive, a profile on the quiet woman behind the Hayes Trust." "No," Emily said. "He wants the spotlight. Let him have it. I'm not a public figure. I'm a landowner and a controlling partner. My actions will speak for me. Let him be the one to answer the questions." "Very wise," Marcus said. "Let him feed the narrative of the crazy, vengeful ex-wife. It will make his public statements all the more damaging to himself." Damien did exactly that. He gave an exclusive to a right-wing financial podcast, ranting for an hour. "It's a conspiracy," he'd shouted into the microphone. "My ex, who by the way was a nothing when I met her, has teamed up with these ancient dinosaur lawyers to steal my company. They're using an archaic illegal morals clause to strip me of my assets. This is a betrayal of capitalism. This is un-American. The financial world, especially the old money world, did not agree. The consensus was simpler. He broke a contract. He's a bad investment." On day 28, Sienna left. Damien came downstairs to find her luggage, 16 matching Louis Vuitton pieces in the foyer. "Where are you going?" he asked, his voice dead. "I'm going to my mother's in Miami," she said, not meeting his eye. She was wearing sunglasses indoors. I can't be here, Damien. This is bad for my brand. My agent said I need to distance myself from this toxic narrative." "Toxic narrative. You are the narrative," he screamed. "You're the adulterous cohabitation." "Don't you put this on me," she shrieked back. "You told me she was a nobody. You told me you were the king. You're just a tenant. And you're being evicted. I am not going to be evicted with you. So all that love, all that passion, it was just for the house, for the money. It was for the life, Damien," she said, "and you don't have it anymore. Goodbye." She walked out, leaving him utterly alone in the cavernous, silent mansion. He was alone for 2 days. He drank. He broke things. He stared at the walls he owned on the land he didn't. On day 30 at 11:59 p.m. he sat in his office, a bottle of scotch in his hand, watching the clock. He was still waiting for a call. For Emily to say, "Okay, you've learned your lesson. Here are my demands." The call never came. At 12:01 a.m., the lights in the mansion shut off. The entire house, the security system, the AC, the network. Everything. He fumbled for his phone. No service. A cell blocker. He heard a noise, a heavy metallic clanking at his front gate. He ran to the window. A black sedan was pulling up his driveway, followed by a large van from the county sheriff's department. The doorbell rang. It was not an electric chime. It was someone outside banging on the oak with their fist. He stumbled to the door, his heart hammering. He opened it. It wasn't Emily. It was Marcus Thorne, flanked by 2 sheriff's deputies. He was holding a very thick, bound document. Damien Vassar, Marcus said, his voice devoid of all emotion. It is 12:03 a.m. on the 11th. Your right to cure the default on your lease has expired. The Hayes Land Trust has terminated said lease. You are, as of this moment, trespassing on private property. You can't, Damien stammered. This is my house I own. This house? You own this house? Marcus corrected. As per clause 34 tonk. All improvements on the land are now forfeit. The house belongs to the trust. These officers are here to escort you from the premises. One of the deputies stepped forward. Sir, we just need you to come with us. You can take your personal effects. A suitcase. My things. Damien looked around wildly. My art, my computers, all improvements and fixtures, Marcus said, which includes art affixed to the walls, custom furniture, and integrated technology are now the property of the landowner. You may take your clothes, your shoes, and your toiletries. You have 10 minutes. This is theft, Damien roared, lunging at Marcus. The deputies were on him in a second, pinning his arms behind his back. Mr. Vassar, do not assault an officer of the court, the deputy said, his voice bored. Damien sagged, defeated. Emily, is she here? He whispered, searching for her. He needed to see her, to make her see. What Mrs. Vassar is not here, Marcus said. She has no desire to see you. She is, I believe, attending the opera. 10 minutes later, Damien Vassar was standing on the same gravel driveway where he had thrown his wife out 30 days prior. He was holding a single small duffel bag. His suit was wrinkled, his face unshaven. The locks on the door, his door, were being changed by a locksmith from the van. Where am I supposed to go? He asked the empty night. That is no longer our concern, Marcus Thorne said. He got into his sedan. Good night, Mr. Vassar. The car pulled away, leaving Damien alone on the curb in the dark. The automated sprinklers, now controlled by the trust, chose that precise moment to turn on, dousing him in a spray of cold recycled water. For 2 weeks, Damien Vassar ceased to exist. He holed up in a suite at a high-end extended-stay hotel, the Omni, not the Ritz. He had to pay for it with his last remaining personal credit card. His entire world was gone. He was a pariah. The class action suit from the Vassar Capital investors was moving forward. They were suing him personally for gross mismanagement and fiduciary negligence. His reputation was not just damaged, it was obliterated. He spent his days in a bathrobe, obsessively refreshing news sites. He saw Emily, but only in glimpses. She was photographed at a gala for the city library, the one she'd been excited about. She was wearing a simple, elegant, dark blue dress, and she was smiling. She looked lighter, younger. She was with a man, not with him, but standing next to him. A handsome, silver-haired man. Damien Googled him. Arthur Pencave. A British architect specializing in sustainable public spaces. They were laughing. The rage which had simmered down to a cold dread roared back to life. She was laughing, while he was ruined. He had one last card to play, one he hadn't wanted to use. A private investigator he'd paid personally with cash he kept in a safe a year ago, not to watch Emily, but to dig up dirt on her perfect family. The Hayeses were clean, but the PI had found one thing: a family secret. Damien got dressed. He put on his last clean suit. He took a cab to the Hayes Tower. He didn't try the lobby. He went to the parking garage. He waited. After 3 hours, Emily's hybrid, pathetic car pulled in. She got out carrying a briefcase. "Emily!" he shouted, stepping from behind a concrete pillar. She didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She just sighed as if he were a piece of trash she had to step over. "Damien, you're not supposed to be here. This is private property. You're violating your restraining order." "That order is a joke. Just like you," he spat, advancing. "You think you've won, don't you? You took my house. You took my company. You're a thief." "I took nothing," Emily said, her voice echoing in the empty garage. "I simply stopped you from taking any more. You defaulted, Damien. On the lease, on the fund, on us. These are the consequences." "Consequences?" He laughed, a wild, unhinged sound. "You want to talk about consequences? How about the consequences for your aunt, Isabella Hayes?" Emily's blood ran cold. She took an involuntary step back. "Ah," Damien smiled, a predator's grin. "I see I have your attention. Isabella Hayes, the black sheep. The one who really owned the trust until she was declared incompetent in 1998. And her loving brother, your father, took control and locked her away in a high-end sanitarium in Switzerland. You're not the owner, Emily. You're the daughter of a thief. Your entire fortune is built on a lie, on a crime." He pulled a file from his briefcase. "I have the medical records, Emily. The lost ones. The ones that say she was eccentric, not insane. I have the letters she wrote. How long do you think your ironclad reputation lasts when this hits the press? How long before the entire Hayes Trust is invalidated?" Emily was silent, her face pale. "Here's the deal," Damien said, stepping closer. "You're going to give me my company back. You're going to give me— no, not the house. I don't want that poisoned place. You're going to give me $500 million. A clean break. And this," he waved the folder, "disappears. You get to keep your dirty little family secret." He was inches from her now, his eyes boring into hers, smelling his victory. "You're not so high and mighty now, are you? You're just like me. You're just empty." Emily looked down at the folder. Then she looked up at his triumphant, desperate face, and she smiled. "Oh, Damien," she said, her voice filled with a profound, aching pity. "You really do only read the headlines, don't you?" What are you talking about?" "Aunt Isabella," Emily said, "was my favorite person in the world. She was eccentric. She was a brilliant, beautiful artist who suffered from severe bipolar disorder at a time when the world and the press were not kind." I, Damien faltered. "My father didn't lock her away. He protected her. He moved her to the best facility in the world, away from people like you who would have exploited her. And incompetent. She wasn't declared incompetent. She willingly signed over her proxy rights to my father, so she could live her life in peace, not be bothered with land deeds and fiduciary duties. And do you know who she left as her sole heir? The one person who visited her every summer, who read to her, who loved her for who she was." Emily tapped her own chest. "Me. No. The sanitarium. You mean the Pince Verdant clinic. It's lovely. I was just there last month. I took Aunt Isabella to lunch." Damien's face crumpled. She's alive. She's 78. She's on new medication, and her paintings are having a retrospective at the Met. That secret. It's the proudest part of my family's history, that we protect our own." Emily took the file from his limp hand. "You have nothing, Damien. You never did. You had no power in our marriage, so you had to invent it with cruelty. You had no real wealth, just leverage. And now you have no blackmail. You're just a sad, angry man in a parking garage." She started to walk away. I'll tell them about the demolition," he screamed at her back. "That's my last ace. You think your green investors will like that you're tearing down a $100 million house? The waste, the hypocrisy." Emily stopped. She turned back. "The demolition. Damien, who told you I was demolishing the house. My lawyers, it's public record. The permit to erase it." "Yes," Emily said, walking back to him, her eyes bright. "We filed the permit, but we're not erasing it." "That's your move." "Then what?" "The house is a structure," Emily said. "It's ugly. It's cold. It's yours. But it's also 25,000 square feet of usable spools. The Vassar Capital investors, the ones you ruined, they've formed a committee. They've partnered with the Hayes Trust. We are deconstructing the house. Deconstructing, piece by piece. The marble is going to the city library. The glass panels are going to a new community greenhouse. The steel beams are being donated to Habitat for Humanity. Even the high-end kitchen appliances are going to a local women's shelter. We are recycling your monument, Damien. It will be salvaged piece by piece and repurposed into things that actually help people. Things that I value." Damien looked as if she had physically struck him. "The Vassar estate," Emily concluded, "is gone. In its place, that architect I was photographed with, Mr. Pencavel. He's designing the Isabella Hayes Public Park and Garden. A quiet, beautiful place for people to sit, to read, to be. My aunt is thrilled." She left him. She walked to the elevator, her steps light. She didn't look back. Damien Vassar sank to his knees on the cold concrete floor of the parking garage, holding a useless folder. A man truly and completely empty. The final phase was not swift, but it was total. The deconstruction of the Vassar estate became the feel-good story of the year. Local news crews filmed as crews meticulously removed the giant gaudy glass panels. Emily Hayes was lauded as a New Age philanthropist, not just donating money, but turning an emblem of toxic greed into a public good. Sienna Stone, in a desperate attempt to stay relevant, tried to launch a tell-all YouTube channel about her abusive relationship with Damien. It backfired. Marcus Thorne's office sent her a single cease and desist, reminding her that she was on video gleefully participating in the scandalous behavior. The public comments were so brutal, she deleted her channel and her Instagram. She was last seen selling Stone's Glow Tanner out of the trunk of a used car. The class action lawsuit against Damien Vassar was successful. The investors led by the controlling partner. Emily clawed back every asset tied to the Vassar name. His remaining personal accounts, his hidden offshore holdings, all were seized. He was forced to declare personal bankruptcy. His scorched earth lawyers from Barrington and Lynch had dropped him the moment his money ran out, and they too sued him for non-payment. Damien, stripped of his wealth, his reputation and his home, became a ghost in the city he once claimed to own. The final legal nail was driven in 6 months after the eviction. Damien was in a small, windowless courtroom, his cheap public defender at his side. He was facing charges of fraud stemming from his lies to his investors. Emily was there, not as a plaintiff, but as a spectator. She sat in the back row wearing a simple professional suit. The judge read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. As Damien was being led out, his eyes found hers. The arrogance was gone. The rage was gone. There was only a hollow, pathetic plea. He expected to see triumph in her face. He expected a smirk, a look of "I told you so." But Emily's face was calm. It was not triumph. It was not even satisfaction. It was closure. As he passed her, he whispered, his voice hoarse, Why did you do all this? You could have just left. You could have just taken half." Emily met his gaze. Her voice was quiet, heard only by him. "You threw me out in the rain, Damien. You told me I was nothing. You stood in the doorway with that woman in my robe, and you told me I was empty. I was angry. You were honest," she corrected. "In that one moment you showed me exactly who you were. You were a man who builds his monuments on other people's foundations. You didn't just own the house, Damien. The house owned you. The money owned you. The idea of power owned you." "Emily, I'm sorry." "I know," she said, and the pity in her voice was the most devastating blow of all. "You threw me out not knowing I owned the land, but your real mistake was throwing me out not knowing who I was. The land was just a detail. You forgot you married a Hayes. We don't just own things, Damien. We endure." The bailiff tugged his arm. "Let's go, Vassar." Damien Vassar, the former king, was led away, leaving Emily Hayes Vassar alone in the courtroom. She sat for a moment, then stood, adjusted her jacket, and walked out into the sunlight. 1 year later, the Isabella Hayes Public Park opened. It was the anti-mansion. Instead of a 20-acre monument to one man's ego, it was a winding, beautiful space of native plants, quiet benches, and a small, elegant water feature made from the recycled marble. Emily was there, cutting a simple ribbon. Her Aunt Isabella, vibrant and sharp in a colourful scarf, was at her side. Marcus Thorne was beaming. The park was an immediate success. It was quiet. It was peaceful. It was used. After the ceremony, Emily was walking the gravel path, the same path where she had once stood in the rain, when a man approached her. It was Arthur Pencavel, the architect. "It's beautiful, Emily," he said, his voice warm. "You did amazing work, Arthur. It's breathing. The land can finally breathe." "As can you, it seems," he said, smiling. "I read in Forbes a different kind of article this time, that the Vassar Capital Fund has been reborn." Emily laughed. "We're calling it the Hayes Restoration Fund. We're taking all that new money aggression and pouring it into old-world projects, libraries, parks, public art, restoring the city's foundation." "A much better use for capital," Arthur said. "And are you, the controlling partner, happy?" Emily looked out over the city. The sun was setting and the view was, as Damien had once said, a king's view. But it felt different now. It wasn't a view to be owned. It was a view to be shared. "For the first time in a very long time, Arthur," she said, I'm not just not empty. I'm full." "Good," he said. "In that case, would the controlling partner be interested in getting some coffee with a humble architect?" "I think," Emily said, smiling a real, genuine smile, "that can be arranged." They walked out of the park together. Two people on solid ground, ready to build something new. The old saying goes, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. But this was never about revenge. This was about restoration. Emily didn't destroy Damien's life. She just stopped letting him build it on top of hers. He thought his power came from his monument of a house, but he forgot that a house is nothing without the land beneath it. And a man is nothing without his integrity. What did you think of Emily's story? Was her karma a perfect act of justice or a cold, calculated destruction? We read every single one of your comments, so let us know your thoughts below. If you loved this story of drama twists and ultimate consequences, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to see that the quiet ones are always the strongest. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on all notifications. We drop stories like this every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.